Can a brand dominate Formula One without having the car faster? Can an invisible advantage, which is not seen on the grille or the classification, mark the definitive difference in the new era of hybrid engines? The answer may surprise you because Mercedes has found a way of having total control without anyone noticing it. To understand the weight of what is coming, you have to review what the new rules consist of. The 2026 power unit will have a radically different configuration. The MGUH, that component that recovered energy from the heat from the exhaust gases, will disappear completely. Instead, the MGUK will charge even more importance. This system, which converts kinetic energy into electricity during braking, will go from delivering 120 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts. That is, almost the triple electric power available on each return. And that will force to rethink from thermal management to the design of the chassis. In addition, the fuel will also change. A 100% sustainable fuel will be passed, made with non-fossil compounds, something that not only implies combustion and pressure challenges, but a complete reconversion of motor maps and torque delivery curves. The units may no longer be based on pure internal combustion performance. It will be a much more complex, more technical, and above all, more uncertain balance. And this is where Mercedes's master play enters. While manufacturers such as Audi and Honda decided to limit their reach to 2 teams, and Red Bull powertrains will barely motorize their own team in Racing Bulls, Mercedes won as the silent giant of the paddock. 4 Mercedes, McLaren, Williams, and Alpine teams will be equipped with their power unit. 8 cars in total. 8 rolling laboratories distributed throughout the platoon, under real conditions with different pilots in different strategies and in different weather scenarios. A test field that no other manufacturer can match. This is not a coincidence. It is a deliberate strategy. Mercedes has woven solid relationships with client equipment for years. He does not treat them as minor clients but as technical partners. And this allows you to expand your influence beyond Brackley's silver box. In 2026, while other manufacturers will have to depend on the data of 2 cars by weekend, Mercedes will have 8. That simple multiplication of inputs represents a tactical advantage that, in a completely new regulatory environment, can make the difference between adapting or being behind. In addition, there is an additional play that many overlooks. Alpine, a team that historically used its own Renault engines, leaves its power units program and now trusts Mercedes. This means that Mercedes not only wins another allied team, but inherits a huge amount of know-how that Alpine accumulated for years. Cross-information, different approaches, and a new collaboration line that can bear unexpected fruits. The 2026 grille is no longer organized according to pure performance of the previous year. It is reconfigured around who can adapt faster to the new regulation. And Mercedes, since the shadow, has achieved something that no other brand has achieved, becoming the development axis of more than a third of cars on the track. In a world where technical knowledge is the most valuable currency, Mercedes not only has more than anyone, has found a way to multiply it without running more kilometers. And what does this mean for the championship? That the fight for titles will no longer be only between pilots or cars. It will be a battle of distributed intelligences, information networks, algorithms, and sensors. And in that new game, Mercedes already has the front before the traffic light goes out for the first time. Formula One has always been a technological war, but in 2026 that war will change form. Who will not win who has the most powerful engine, but whoever learns faster. And that is where Mercedes has placed its greatest advantage. An intelligence network distributed in 8 cars, connected to each other through the flow of data that leads directly to its base in Brixworth, headquarters of its motor division, high-performance powertrains. When the regulation changes as radical as it will occur in 2026, the initial data is worth more than any previous simulation, because test banks can only replicate certain conditions. But the track is something else. Only the track can reveal how a real thermal degradation power, variable dynamic pressure, aggressive braking styles, intermittent energy management, or the erratic behavior of the MGUK in a yellow flag situation or relaunching of safety car. Mercedes, with 8 active power units every weekend, will have the ability to collect a critical mass of real-time data that no other manufacturer can match. It is not just the quantity but about diversity. They will have engines in cars that start from pole, and in others that fight in the middle of the grille. You will see how its propeller behaves in aggressive undercut strategies, and in long batches with energy saving. In rain and extreme heat in low and high load circuits. Each kilometer traveled by any of those cars will be another line of code in the Mercedes intelligence system. But this data collection is not passive. It is not limited to storing information. It is an active learning tool. In each race, in each practice, Mercedes engineers not only collect information, they process it in real time, detect anomalies, simulate scenarios, and generate solutions before the problem is repeated. This system allows them to develop specific improvements that can then apply controlled in one of the client teams before incorporating them into their official team. It is like having 8 prototypes evolving at the same time in parallel, but under the same technical brain. And that accelerated learning capacity becomes even more critical when we enter the field of reliability. Because in 2026, with the disappearance of the MGUH and the reconfiguration of the power unit, mechanical failures are more likely to be more frequent, at least in the first races. Identifying patterns before they cause abandonment is a skill that is only achieved with sample volume. A manufacturer that only has 2 cars needs several races to isolate a pattern. Mercedes can do it in a single weekend. Andrew Shovlin made it clear. In 2014, when Mercedes swept the beginning of the hybrid era, one of his greatest advantages was precisely this. Their client teams helped them to understand the engine behavior faster, to detect vulnerabilities and optimize energy maps. That lesson was not forgotten. It was systematized. And now, in 2026, they are repeating the play but on a much larger scale. In addition, there is a component that is not purely technical: trust. Customer teams used by Mercedes engines are usually more likely to share strategic data, pilot comments, telemetry records. That transparency is not accidental. It is the result of years of collaboration and a reputation built with facts. While some manufacturers jealously keep their developments, Mercedes has created a technical community around them. And that community in practice works as a decentralized laboratory. In this ecosystem, even errors become assets. If a failure occurs in Williams or Alpine, it is likely that it will not be repeated again in McLaren or in Mercedes. Each client car is an advanced trench in the war of development. And each sensor mounted on an Alpine or a Williams directly reports to the Brixworth headquarters as if it were part of the main team. When the traffic light goes out in the first race of 2026, many will be watching the first row, hoping to see which team took the lead. But the true strategists will know that the battle already began much earlier, in the data centers, in the simulators, in the spreadsheets that compare cross data of 8 different cars. Mercedes is not looking just to win a race. You are looking to establish an ecosystem. A model of domination that does not depend on winning on track, but on controlling the rhythm of technical learning. In 2026, they are replicating that strategy, but with a much more favorable context. Now they have infinitely more powerful digital tools. Machine learning applied to real-time data collection. Predictive models that feed on crossed feedback between 4 shields. And most importantly, the lesson learned from each previous cycle. Mercedes already knows that power does not reside solely in its official car. His true power lies on the network he has built. This allows them to execute a strategy that no other manufacturer can replicate without years of investment and solid relationships. They can risk without risk. If you want to test a new component, a new thermal configuration of the ERS, or even an alternative combustion map adapted to a new biofuel, they do not have to do it on their main team. They can implement small variations in Williams or Alpine. Notice, compare, validate, and only then incorporate. It's like playing chess with several pieces simultaneously, while the rest of the manufacturers barely move a pawn. But this goes beyond the technical part. It is also a statement of power within the paddock. When a manufacturer motorizes the largest number of equipment, it also gains political weight. Their decisions influence more shields. His voice weighs more in F1 commission meetings. Your interests are represented by more votes. And that, in a context where crucial issues will be discussed such as the technical budget limit, the distribution of profits by supplied motor, or the standardization of certain components, is as valuable as a second by return. Mercedes is not building a winning car. It is building a system. An interconnected environment where every kilometer traveled by its clients provides privileged information. Where each error made by Alpine or Williams becomes a preventive success for the official team. And where each technical advance of McLaren can be redirected to Brixworth with an efficiency that brushes collective intelligence engineering. And that takes us to you. Is it still Mercedes simply a motor supplier? Or are we seeing a deeper transformation? Are we witnessing the birth of a new model of power in Formula One? One that no longer depends on pure speed, but on shared knowledge, accelerated learning, and invisible domain of data flow. I want to know what you think. Is this Mercedes's master play to dominate the new era? Or are you convinced that true power still resides on the track and not on servers? Leave it to the comments.